welcome to the D3D4 Football Podcast with me, your host, James Richards. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the D3D4 Football Podcast. It is Sunday, the 8th of March. I do apologise if I'm a bit croaky throughout this podcast. My kids tend to bring home more than homework from school these days, and our house is just full. It's like a bio-germ factory. Fortunately, I'm on the receiving end this time. Loads to talk about. I mean, the League One table, and we will come to it as we always do, but I mean, it's becoming so exciting, ridiculous, especially at the top of the table, where every week it seems results can change the dynamic of the entire race for automatic promotion, and indeed the playoffs as well. League Two, not quite perhaps so dynamic, but it is changing all the time as well, and we'll cover it as always with my co-hosts Ed and Chris. We're going to jump straight in to League One. League One. And the reason I jump straight into League One is not to go to the top of the table, but let's give Southend their dues, lads, because they have had a torrid season. But yesterday they came up good. They won 3-1 at home to Bristol Rovers. And Ed, there's some good young players on display there for Sol Campbell, and despite another classic bit of Southend defending which allowed Bristol Rovers to equalise, they showed a bit of character and managed to win the game.
I was quite impressed with them, to be honest, and yeah, like you say, I think it's acknowledged with, supporters and players that they're not staying up the season. So it's great to see that Sol's giving so many youngsters an opportunity, and you've got people like Aaron Canali, who started yesterday, Charlie Kelman, who's a player I really like the look of. I think could be very effective if they can keep him in League Two next season.
I didn't realise he was an American. He's like a US under 20.
Yeah, he's an under 20s US international. I can't born in England though, I think, if I remember right. But no, he's a player I like to look up. I've always been a big fan of Elvis Bomono as well at the back. I think he's a very good player. He did have a little mistake yesterday, but generally I quite like him as well. And do you know what? It's a nice little something to celebrate in a season that's, like you say, has been very tricky and difficult to deal with.
Oh, it's been a nightmare. I mean, I can't remember a team struggling. I mean, yes, there have been those sides, and we've talked about it before, but I haven't seen a side struggle quite so badly as Southend. Obviously, off the field issues, not getting paid on time. They're trying to recapitalise, so the chairman has assured the fans that there will be investment and there will be money to see them through until the end of 2021-22 season as well. So he's confident that they'll get that. But they beat a Bristol Rovers side that have won once since December the 21st. I mean, I could count the number of matches that is. I mean, it's a huge amount of games. It must be 15 games or something ridiculous like that now. And the only team they beat, Chris, was David Dunn's Blackpool.
I think that says it all, doesn't it, really? I mean,
we're hating on David Dunn.
You know my thoughts on David Dunn's style of football. But it is just terrible. It is just absolutely terrible. Because Bristol Rovers, I didn't think were horrendous before the change of management, but now they've...
They weren't horrendous. I mean, they're fourth, weren't they, when they changed?
They're having such a good season under Graham Coughlin.
And now they've plummeted down to 15th, and it is just horrendously bad.
Yeah, winning one game in 15 matches. That's, Ben Gardner, he did take a sort of a leave of absence to deal with I think it was a family bereavement, but I'd be interested to know what Bristol Rovers fans think of this, because he may well be a good coach. I mean, Dan Machichi was a good coach, like we've said before, but there've been plenty of good coaches who just do not have the ability to manage senior football players. And I may be doing him a disservice because I don't know what's going on in the dressing room. But when you're looking at the results that they've had of late, losing to Sunderland by 3-0, capitulating in that game after looking quite bright. 3-1, obviously, at the weekend to Southend, losing at Shrewsbury at home to Shrewsbury by a single goal. Yeah, I mean, far too many of these kind of results. 3-0 at Milton Keynes, they lost. They lost at home to AFC Wimbledon. They've picked up a few 0-0s. They don't seem to be scoring goals. Maybe, I mean, like Neil Warnock said, he's a good coach, but it's a whole different ball game being a manager, and that man management side of the game perhaps is lacking. I can't really put, it's hard to put your finger on what makes a team suddenly become abject and lacking in sort of the abilities and the drive and determination that got them where they were in the first place. But
I'm a bit worried about their running as well, because their next 3 are Sunderland and Ipswich at home, and then Peterborough away.
Oh dear.
So
and then they got Portsmouth.
They got Portsmouth, and they got Oxford. That. They've got Oxford as well coming up, and Burton as well. So
they'll beat Oxford. They always beat Oxford. It's like our bogey team, Bristol Rovers.
3rd place, Oxford.
Third. Well, thank you, Chris. That's a nice segue. That leads me on to Oxford versus Shrewsbury. Now, I'm not saying Shrewsbury fans were salty after this game, because maybe they had a point about the red card. The referee was not particularly strong, and I've said it before, Oxford players going down easily, I'm not a fan of it. I think it's all very well criticising Oxford United for doing it, but this needs to change. There needs to be a change in football coming from those running it, the authorities, to stop diving, to stop players getting cheap free kicks. Referees need to be stronger, and that directive has to come from above. It can't, you can't keep whinging at individual teams, because if they're getting away with it, and it's part of their gamesmanship, I suppose you could argue, then they'll do it. And Oxford were pretty poor at times yesterday. Carl Robinson sort of putting a bit of pressure on the ref from the touchline, as he is well known to do. But you can't deny it. We were 2-0 down. We looked dead and buried. Shrewsbury helped us out big time with some awful defending, allowing Marcus Brown to ghost in off the left flank to pull one back just before half time. And that goal, indeed, I think, was probably more important than the red card in some respects, because it gave us something to sort of build on in the second half. And we left it late, but we came back, a 3-2 win, putting us up to 3rd in the table, 5th win on the bounce. Do we dare believe, Oxford fans, that we could be in an automatic promotion hunt? I mean, I look at the team, and I look at the way we started that game yesterday, and it does give me concerns, because we were poor, very, very poor for that first half. But you can't deny the character.
That's part of a good team.
On a fantastic winning run as well.
Yeah.
A good team will play
form team in the league at the minute.
Well, when you win 5 in a row, and it obviously last couple of performances not great, but the big game, which I know is already a sellout, is Wycombe v Oxford on the 21st of March. That'll be massive, and then we're taking on Portsmouth on the 28th.
Got Coventry still as well.
Yes, Coventry. Yes, that team just keep on winning. We do have Fleetwood, who we never beat. So there are some games coming up which concern me. But I mean, come on, Oxford 3rd in the table. Snapped your hand off for this at the start of the season. Blimey, I mean, ridiculous season that we've had. It's great to watch. Good football as well, despite losing the big players in January. Rotherham having a bit of a wobble though, boys, at the wrong time. Ed, this defeat yesterday means that Rochdale have done the double over them strangely this season, which is a credit to Rochdale. But they haven't won in 3 games now.
It is a bit of a slip up. It's a bit weird one. I mean, Rochdale were brilliant. Let's not take it away from them. I know that we can talk about the pitch and all that, but I don't really like to say that. What I would say is I was really impressed with the way Rochdale went about the game and got that 3-goal lead as well. And particularly like that 3rd goal from Matty Lund. Nice little ball over the top, lobbing the goalkeeper. Yep, back at Rochdale. Good to see him back as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. Rochdale, they needed that, because like we said, Tranmere, we kind of wrote Tranmere off. They're starting to win a few games. So, and Rochdale will be looking over their shoulder, needing, obviously, the points. Big win for them yesterday. But Rotherham, struggling to get the winning run back on track. Like I said, they've only won 1 of the last 5. The last 3 they've drawn 2 and lost obviously yesterday. So it means that they are catchable. But everyone at this stage of the season is fairly catchable. Probably the biggest game yesterday took place at London Road. And Chris, it was Peterborough 2, Portsmouth 0. Ivan Toney again putting on a bit of a masterclass. But that is a massive win for the team that, if any team is expected to choke, it's got to be Peterborough, based on their historical ability to throw away impressive starts to the season.
They were absolutely magnificent yesterday. I mean, Tony's the obvious one to point out as having a really good game, but I thought Dembele looked good. Butler, again, really, really impressive. They just completely outclassed Portsmouth, I thought, and there's not many teams this season that can say that.
No, not particularly. I mean, Portsmouth, we know how good they've been at home. It's away where they have sometimes struggled, losing, obviously, I think their last 3 on the road now. So that home form will be, they've got 3 straight at home coming up, so that will be massive. And then I hope their poor away form continues into the next 2 because they take on Ipswich and Oxford.
I think one star player for Portsmouth yesterday was their goalkeeper. I thought I feel a bit sorry for him being on the losing side because he looked really impressive.
Yeah, he's been very impressive. I mean, he came from, was it Shrewsbury, McGillivray?
No, it was Alex Bass.
Bass
it was Alex Bass.
Oh, of course, yes, yeah. Go on then. What particularly impressed you about this chap, Chris?
Well, there's just a couple of really top quality saves that, you're looking at Peterborough. They've come away with a 2-0 win. A couple of those saves he's pulled off have prevented it being, a real mothering, I thought.
Peterborough are good at doing that to teams, aren't they? They tend to, they thrashed Oxford and they had 10 men in that game. They thrashed Oxford, I think, 4-0. So they are extremely good. They score a lot of goals. I think they've scored 68 times this season.
And they're rarely tap-ins.
No, they have some worldies, don't they? Like
when you've got a trio of Ivan Toney, Sammy Schmodix and Sarika Dembele, you can score any type of goal, really. That's such a good front line.
Yeah, they've got Mo Issa
such a good
not
front
even
line.
in the team at the minute.
Exactly. It's just
imagine Mo Issa being
ridiculous.
sat on your bench.
Yeah, that'd be luxurious, I think, for a team to have those sort of forward options. But so Peterborough taking advantage of a Sunderland draw. Gillingham proving yet again what a robust side they've become. 2 long throw-ins, taking advantage of some weak defending from Sunderland. 96th minute, but Mikael Mandron, who was obviously released by Sunderland, has played.
He would have enjoyed that.
He would have loved that when he obviously played for the likes of Colchester and now finding his way to Gillingham. He took his finishes really, really well. No denying it at all. Great finishes to make sure that Gillingham got a point. Their 473 fans made that trip. Will have been absolutely delighted to come away from the stadium alight, and it does keep things very, very interesting because Sunderland are one of 4 or 5 teams, I think.
5 teams
on 59 points. It's
crazy. It's unbelievable. It is just fun. I love this league so much. I
saw someone saying the other day, this is like the opposite of last season. We had that crazy relegation battle this time last year. Now it's a playoff battle, and Wycombe are involved in both of them.
Yes,
which is something quite crazy to think about.
I'd argue this is not even a playoff battle. It's an automatic promotion battle because all of these sides on 59 points are 3 points behind Rotherham.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that a couple of weeks ago we were talking about Wycombe maybe faltering a bit but being at the top of the table, and now they're 8th, but they're still 3 points off second.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, isn't it? A side in 8th, essentially 1 win away from being in the automatic promotion.
And they have a game in hand on them as well.
Yeah, unbelievable. Which makes Coventry's win at Ipswich even more important because it puts them with a buffer. And come on lads, let's say it now. Mark Robbins got to be, regardless of what happens from now to the end of the season, got to be manager of the season for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I watched them obviously last Sunday when they played Sunderland, and I just think this is the team that's going up. I'm really confident on that. They show all the credentials of a side you want to see going up. They can win by pretty much whatever means necessary. I think they lost 3 games in the league, and the next best teams lost 8.
Yep, 7.
7 or 8, and that's
ridiculous stat.
That's ridiculous, and it's just such a good team. Matt Godden's been brilliant.
It's kind of the perennial. If we do not play well, we do not lose. They've drawn 13 matches, and
exactly.
Those are potentially 13 points, which if you're a side that doesn't, have that sort of backbone, that spine, you lose those and you end up mid-table. And there's a massive difference this season for Coventry City from those sides that were just limp, that saw them drop down the divisions. It's great to see.
Joint best defence as well with Sunderland. Just 30 goals conceded.
Yeah.
So I really like the system they play. That kind of, it's a mix between a sort of 3-6-1 and a 3-5-2. Really nice.
It
Got
does
people like
balance them well, yeah.
McFadgen, Hyam at the back as well. Really good.
Yeah, I think I would say back Carl McFadden as well. He's kind of I didn't think he started particularly well this season. I thought he was quite error prone, but he's fair play to him. He's shown a bit of character, and of the performances I've seen him recently playing, I think he's done really, really well.
He was always when he was at Burton, he was always one of those players who was, you always thought he was one game away from giving away a penalty. He had that brashness about him, but at the same time, he was a defensive rock on his day, and it makes sense that why Coventry brought him in, and it's showing.
Yeah, they've been absolutely superb. So, Mark Robbins, Manager of the Year. If the EFL do not give it to him, then, well, we know they're fairly incompetent anyway, so it wouldn't surprise me if they...
It'll go to be
celebration in this game.
Is that what? Mate?
Yes,
the coronavirus one.
So they started knocking forearms at each other rather than handshakes.
Yeah.
This coronavirus stuff, like, you're not allowed to shake hands with players, but you're allowed to basically cuddle each other at corners and swap shirts. Okay, fine. You know.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there'll still be players spitting on the floor and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it as well. This is talking Premier League here, but obviously Liverpool played Bournemouth early on yesterday, and there's this video of them just walking past the Bournemouth players as they go around to warm up, and I'm just thinking, why are you doing that?
Why not just go the other way?
Why not just turn around and walk off? You don't have to walk past them if you're not going to shake their hands. It just looks so weird. I don't get it.
I swear I saw some of the Liverpool players put like their shirts over their mouth as a joke to say, "We've got, you're all infectious. Stay away from us."
Oh dear.
Oh, I know. It is kind of ridiculous. And then of course you've got 29,000 people in a stadium, like the Stadium of Light, all watching the game, but the players can't shake hands just in case.
Well, aren't they starting to say that maybe over 70 shouldn't be going to games?
Yeah, there is that sort of. I mean, I don't know.
What's that all about?
Well, they're the high risk group, I suppose. So they're saying those people who have got a higher risk of complications from coronavirus perhaps should.
I'm
not
massively going to stay away.
I don't know. You can see them like they do at clubs with bouncers on the outside. Sorry, sir, I'm going to have to see some ID. No, sorry, mate. You're 71. You're not allowed in.
Wearing the wrong type of shoes, we can't let you in. Something like that, silly.
Yeah. It's your birthday today. You're 71. Jog on.
Sir, I can see the Zimmer frame. I'm sorry, you're not fooling anyone. Mate, is them slippers you're wearing? No. Yeah, you can just see it, can't you? But I mean, it's going to get worse. So the prospect of maybe games being played in empty stadiums, I don't know. That's what they've proposed in Italy, where there's thousands of cases of the virus. I don't know.
It's strange times.
Strange time. I did say, was it you sent me a tweet where someone said, if they close stadiums, it won't affect Oldham Athletic because there's never a crowd.
North Stand just stays as it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, don't get started on that.
Anyway, back to the matches on Saturday. Excuse me. AFC Wimbledon 0, Bolton 0. Not really ideal, but at least AFC Wimbledon will say that we'll take that point given Tranmere, who we'll talk about in a second. Fleetwood and Blackpool, Fife Coast Derby, finished 0-0. Better point for Blackpool than it is for Fleetwood, given the current chase for the top three, but it keeps them, like I say, I think they're one of the teams on 59, aren't they, Fleetwood?
Yeah.
They're bang up in there. MK Dons lost at home. Not something they've been making a habit of recently, but it pushes Doncaster onto 54 points. I'd say they'd have to go all guns blazing in the last sort of 12 games to get themselves in there, but maybe. There's still plenty of points to play for. So wouldn't rule them out, and I think they've been impressing recently. So there's and obviously Tranmere. So we kind of wrote these guys off.
That was the way.
Well, it is, but I mean, they're slowly or starting to show signs of life. I mean, it's still a big ask because, like you said, despite them having games in hand, you'd always prefer to have points on the board, and chasing games is when you've got a tightly packed fixture list is always harder. But yeah, beating Shrewsbury away, beating Accrington away,
they've got back-to-back away games coming up against Rochdale and Wimbledon.
Yeah,
There's two of their games, and those are just massive ones.
I think the key. Sorry, go on.
And then, no, I was just saying, then the 7K Dons at home afterwards. So those 3 there, tell you what, those are big ones, I'd say.
Well, look at the teams. Yeah, they basically played the 3 teams directly above them in the table, back to back. So whoever, like the fixture computer should get like an OBE. I'm not joking. That's unbelievable. Foresight, wonderful.
I think Tranmere really need to start using their pitch to their advantage. They've got a horrible pitch to play on, but it's their
Manny
pitch.
Month up front. That's what I was thinking.
Well, it's their pitch. It's what we did a few seasons ago to stay in the league. If you can utilise it, if you can play horrible football, but football that you can get a win with against those better sides that like to keep it on the deck, you'll get points.
Rochdale used it well against Rotherham. That's yesterday.
Precisely, yeah.
That's right, yeah, and just if it's the same for both teams. But if it's your pitch, like you say, Chris, just take advantage of it and make it play into your hands, make it play into your advantage. But that keeps them close. And the only game we haven't really talked about, Ed, and I've been sort of trying not to upset you too much, but a 3-2 defeat for Burton at Lincoln in what was a pretty amazing game of football, actually.
Well, from your perspective, maybe, but do you know what? It's that you left that last because it is just a mid-table clash now. I hate to admit it, that's the season over, which is it sucks that we're gonna have to spend these last 2 months with nothing to play for because it's probably, I'd say, the worst thing you can do in a season. Because even if you're in a relegation battle, at least you've got a reason to get up and support the team every week. There's nothing to play for. The gap, I think, is 12 now to the playoffs with 10 left. We'd have to basically win all 10 to get in that. And the manner of the goals, again, that we conceded. We scored 2 really good goals from Joe Powell, who's a player that I'm really looking forward to seeing in the future.
Where was he on loan last season?
He was at Northampton last year.
We
brought him in from West Ham permanently, and he's basically going to take that attacking midfield role, which is something I'm looking forward to seeing certainly next season. But we cannot see out wins and leads at the moment, and it's what's killed us all season. Well, defensively, it's been a mess, and then obviously the Kieran O'Hara incident as well.
What's happened with that?
So I've seen through a picture. It relates to the game last week against Peterborough. He's bitten into Sammy Schmodik's shoulder on a corner. He's
Kieran
one of those where Schmodix is basically hassling the keeper on a corner. He's just bitten into his left shoulder, and he's been banned for 6 matches. And to be honest with you, I think that's it now. I mean, he's not going to be here next season. Let's just play Ben Garrett for the rest of the season. We've got nothing to play for. Garrett's going to be number 1 next year. Let's just finish the season with him.
Yeah, I mean, no excuse for that whatsoever.
Not at all. Not at all.
I don't care if you didn't have your pre-match meal. You do not try and eat someone's shoulder. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a breach of coronavirus protocols.
Oh, that really is.
Yeah, not that shake hands, but I'm allowed to eat your flesh.
To be honest with you, he's been very inconsistent with his performances anyway, so I think he's been lined for a drop. It's been
too much bloody Resident Evil, that.
It started good, his loan spell, but it faded out, and do you know what? Ben Garrett's going to be number 1 next season, so let's just wrap up the season with him and just play as we were, I say.
Indeed. I think, fair play to Lincoln and Tom Hopper as well, getting a brace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
After what he's been through. I think he's a good striker as well. He's a bit of a pacey.
I liked him at Southend. I thought he was a very good player. Along with him and Simon Cox, I thought made a very good pair last season.
I think Chris Powell may well have had a much better campaign if he'd not lost players like that. He lost Ben Coker to a long-term injury. He lost his strike force as well. I think there's about 6 players went for long-term injuries during Chris Powell's tenure there, and it put pay to any sort of momentum that he had built. And kind of started the slippery slope to where they've ended up. So, But top of the table, Coventry City, 67 points. That 5-point gap on second is important, but the 7-point gap and indeed 8-point gap on third and fourth respectively, even more so, because those are the gap. I mean, if Coventry, who have a game in hand by the way, end up finishing second, I don't think their fans will care one jot. I mean, it's just about getting promoted, because this is a tough league now with several teams. Sorry, someone's just fallen over in the background there.
No, that's fine.
It's a tough league to get out of this year, because there is such a competitive group of teams right at the top end. You're talking, I can't believe we're talking from 8th to 2nd just being 3 points. So every week from now to the end of the season is going to be full of excitement and jeopardy. But Rotherham still clinging on to second spot. Oxford third. In third place, Oxford flipping United. I can't believe it. I've supported them for too long, and we've never, not since, I think, 1995, 96, I think, have we been in any sort of promotion battle to get into the Championship. So, utterly ridiculous. In fourth is Peterborough, fifth Sunderland, sixth Portsmouth, but, all on the same points, 59 points, along with Fleetwood and Wickham in seventh and eighth. So, absolutely crazy. At the bottom, Bolton, they're done, 13 points. I mean, when will they actually get relegated?
I've been trying to work it out. What's the gap at the minute? 22?
Oh, God, yeah.
So that'll be with about 8 games less, so not too long, I think. Could possibly be end of the month.
Yeah, not looking good for them. Southend, of course, they'll be going down too, but nice to see them get a victory. Tranmere, that run of 3 games, like I say, can't wait for that against Wimbledon, Rochdale and MK Dons. But they still sit, as it stands, in the bottom 3, and they have 2 games in hand on the team above them, but 6 points to make up, so still a lot to do. Let's, without further ado though, jump down into League 2.
League 2.
And I'm going to start at the derby in Lincolnshire between Grimsby and Scunthorpe. Ed, I'm going to let you talk about this one because you had some interesting stats, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
I'm just getting this up. Right, so Grimsby won 2-0 at Scunthorpe. Now, the last time Grimsby beat Scunthorpe in a game was November 2013. You've got to go back to April 1990 for the last time they beat Scunthorpe in the league, and the last time they beat Scunthorpe away in the league, September 1972.
Bloody hell.
What about the last time they beat them in the league away from home?
Away from home. Just away in the league in general. And for context as well, Scunthorpe's current ground, Glanford Park, was built in 1988.
Oh,
so
blimey.
this
Was
is
it
before.
Springfield? Was it Springfield?
I think it was, yeah. So this is before they moved into their current home. So they've never beaten Scunthorpe in the league at Glanford Park until now.
And it was worth waiting for those 2,000
What a win.
fans.
What a win.
Yeah,
Brilliant
great
result.
And Charles Vernon, a man who has been utterly transformed under Ian Holloway. Unbelievable.
Can we mention Levi Sutton as well?
Oh, yes.
On as a sub, 4 minutes later, red card.
It was a stupid tag. I mean, I like the way the Scunthorpe treated it. It literally was just us trying to get away with one. Their Scunthorpe media team like, Levi Sutton's been red carded. I said, no. This does not tell the story. He comes on in the 77th minute. In the 81st minute, he lunges through the back of Whitehouse, and just, took him out completely and gets a red card.
You love to see it.
That's Grimsby now. How far ahead of Scunthorpe are they? They're 7 points ahead of Scunthorpe now. How often can you say that?
It's not been like that for a long, long time, has it?
No, it hasn't.
This season has been terrible for Scunthorpe. They have really underwhelmed. They're trying to obviously get young players in. I'll tell you who would be a good manager for them because they're trying to reduce the budget but put faith in youth. And I think Russ Wilcox, okay, he's been there before, and it's always difficult when you're employing a manager who's already been sacked by the club and the current chairman. So, but I think Frankie Bunn would do a good job there. I don't know what you think, Chris, but similar remit, and he did quite well with Oldham.
I really like Frankie Bunn as a coach, and he was a really good manager. I thought if you're trying to build something as a team, I think he's the man for you. He won't necessarily get you those quick fire results to save you from relegation, for example, in the same way someone like John Sheridan might. But if you're building a project, I think there's few that would be better than Frankie Bunn at this level.
He's got great contacts with youth football as well, having been at Huddersfield for a long time.
Huddersfield, Manchester City.
Well, I mean, just to put into context as well, the players that he managed to bring in on loan to Oldham, I think, were Jordan Lydon, Callum Lang, and Sam Surridge.
Yeah. I mean, Callum Lang's now playing a league above. Surridge has been playing Championship and Premier League.
Lydon's at Swindon.
Lydon's bossing it at Swindon.
Yep.
Yeah, though his season's over, unfortunately. Injury.
That was always the risk with him. I mean, it was Aston Villa he came from, and Aston Villa saw him as one of their next big things, but the problem is he's very, very injury prone, and that's why he's in League Two.
Indeed he is. And talking of his team Swindon, shock home defeat to woefully out of form Forest Green. It's just one of those. That's one of those League Two results that is a complete coupon buster.
I honestly, I know it's a great win for Forest Green. That's not taken away. And Ebu Adams' header was brilliant. I mean, the height he gets up to that.
Oh yeah.
But I don't look at this Forest Green win and think it's a turning point. I hate to say it, I just don't. I think they've just been incredibly disappointing this season.
See, when I saw them the other week against Oldham, I didn't think they were horrendous. I thought they had a bit of potential about them. They could knock it about quite well. But I think
I just think their season's changed from the fact that Liam Shepherd and Joseph Mills have gone.
Yeah, well, that as well. They've got so much issue picking an 11 as well. It seems to rotate every week. He's been constantly trying to find a system that fits. He's, like we said, recently he's gone through 4 different goalkeepers this season. He's brought in likes of Rob Hall, Josh March, Matt Mills, and they've just become obscure, like places on the bench at best for them.
Matt Mills is another one who's out for the season as well. I mean, crazy. I mean, it's crazy. I hate that though. I hate it when I don't like tinkering managers. I don't like it. I like a settled lineup in a settled formation because I don't see how players can really thrive in a system that changes each week. I just don't get it. I mean, some teams do well on it. Don't get me wrong, but not many.
You need a very adaptable squad to be able to pull it off, and that's rare that you see that at this level.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've missed their fullback, so I think that has changed their entire season because their best 2 players are Liam Shepherd and Joseph Mills, and the way played were very reliant on those two.
I would say though as well, yes, you've got the fullbacks, but the one constant, the thing that should be praised is their midfield pair of Winchester and Ebu Adams.
Yeah, they've been great.
They've been very good. They're very good players, those two, and always present in the squad as well. They've been fantastic. They deserve to be higher. They deserve to be higher up the table than where they are. Those two.
I mean, when he played for us when Winchester played for us in League One, I was surprised that he ended up moving to. I think he moved to Cheltenham from us, dropping down a level, and I was very surprised that he went down a level.
Yeah, Giovanni Brown, who came in and was superb in that game down at Crawley, then did his hamstring. So they've had a bit of bad luck with some key players getting injured at the wrong time. But Mark Cooper, he's a bit of a salty character. He doesn't help himself at times. One team not helping themselves this week, really, Exeter City. I watched them against Crewe, and we'll come to them next, but in the midweek, and they will probably feel they were the better side, but didn't take advantage. They then go to Walsall, and they underperformed again, and it's put their sort of push for automatics, and we were all unanimous in our thoughts that if any side was going to drop out of that top 3, it was Exeter. Mm-hmm. As it stands right now, we are geniuses.
We've got one right. We've got one right.
That's it. Yeah. They've dropped out, guys. I'd be interested. Well, Ed, your thoughts first. I mean, Matt Taylor's done a fantastic job, but it just seems that the results they were just edging, they're not quite doing it now.
Yeah, it's just fallen away with them. I think I'd still be pretty impressed with how the season's gone so far. They have been without Maxted for a while, who's been excellent season. I think Lewis Ward's a decent goalkeeper, but perhaps not quite the same level as him. They've still got Randall Williams is one of the players of the season, definitely for me. He's been superb. Got another assist today, just brilliant off that right side. I think
he leads the division in assists. Yeah,
he's fantastic. Ryan Bowman's down goal scoring form as well, which is good, but they're just dropping off the results. I still think they'll end up in the playoffs, definitely, but when you consider how well they have been doing, I think it's a slight shame that probably at the key moment they're just going to slip slightly away.
4 games without a win now.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at Crewe, who last season they were a side that whenever they were up against it, they folded. No doubt about it. They just did not have the maturity or character within the squad to be able to see games out and to keep going for the whole season. They're top of the table now for a good reason. And although Swindon do have that game in hand, let's take nothing away from Crewe, who went to Exeter, went behind, and came back brilliantly. And they've missed, not to put it lightly, their key man in that team, despite all the talent they've got going forward, I think is Eddie Nolan. And he has been out for ages. They brought in Michael Nottingham, who didn't hardly get a game at Blackpool, and he was superb in the win in the draw at Exeter. Scored the equaliser. But Luke Offord, I mean, this is a young kid, another academy product playing at centre back. I don't know if Crewe fans will know better than me, but I don't know if he's played any games before this season. I had a feeling this is his debut campaign. He has been rock solid. He didn't let Exeter get the better of him at all. He marshalled Randall Williams on a couple of occasions really well. He's not even that tall either. He's just got excellent positional sense. I mean, another fantastic young player. And beating Stevenage yesterday. Okay, you'd expect them to beat Stevenage.
Mention to Ryan Wintle as well.
Oh, he was man of the match.
Who's been excellent.
Exeter.
Base in midfield. He plays in that position that probably doesn't get the credit because of the role he plays, but he manages to get a goal today. And throughout the whole campaign, he's been as important to that midfield as Tom Lowry's been.
I think Wintle will be their player of the season. I'd be surprised. I mean, it's between him and Perry Ng.
Charlie Kirkson was a shout as well, I think, definitely.
I think Charlie Kirk's good, but I think if you're looking for who has been the most consistent player and most important player in the sort of the whole campaign, it's between Wintle and Ng. I think both of those two are brilliant.
When you're captaining a club at 23, you've got people in their late 30s in there. 23-year-old captain Perry Ng, he's going to have such a good career.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of if I had a back four that had been recently in the EFL that I would like to have if we were going to play it in an expansive style. I mean, I'd probably have Ng right back, Rob Dickey centre back, George Edmondson next to him, and maybe Harry Pickering at left back.
I'd say Pickering, yeah.
Yeah.
They're just good on the ball. All four of them would be good on the ball. They play a good start. I mean, they might lack at the moment because they're all young, a bit of strength, but brilliant.
You could argue maybe Joseph Mills, the left back, as well, to get that flying full-back.
I don't know if you saw, Chris, but George Emerson performed was playing for Rangers in their game away at Braga, and they kept a clean sheet and knocked Braga out, and he was superb. I mean, crazy to think.
The match.
Yeah.
The fridge, they call him.
He's brilliant though. He had a great performance. So always interested to see how EFL players do when they move up into different divisions and leagues. But he's been superb.
Yeah.
And as have Crewe this whole season, deservedly top of the table. Colchester bounced back, Ed, from that disappointing little run of results, I suppose you could say. But the defeat to Cheltenham was pretty bad considering the importance of the game. But they thrashed Carlisle 3-0.
They thrashed Carlisle 3-0. I'm a bit surprised by the manner of the result. I think on the balance of play, you'd say Colchester are a better side, but I didn't expect Carlisle to really put up a bit more of a fight than they did, I guess. 2 goals to Kwame Poku, who's another one who's going to be one
His
to
goal.
watch.
I mean, how does he curl a ball like he does?
I don't know how he's... does it take a little deflection, I think? It must, to do that.
Well, the second one maybe
like that.
did, but the first one didn't.
Oh, the first one was great. But with Colchester, and I think it's a similar case with Northampton, we'll probably talk about as well, it's their inconsistency that worries me. They can beat teams easily, but there's a real kind of, they'll win one and then lose the next, and it feels like that, and that worries me heading into this final running.
Yeah.
Well, Port Vale went to Cheltenham, didn't they? And that was the other big game in this sort of playoff chasing pack, and it was 0-0. Jonte Smith and Tom Pope missed the gilt-edged chances for each side, but it does make this very, very interesting as you go into this, because Port Vale now a point behind both Northampton and Colchester, arguably more consistent over the last 10
I'd say
games.
so, definitely.
Bradford's defeat at Salford means they're not necessarily convincing me they're going to be involved. Do you think Salford might be though after that?
I think so. The problem with Salford has been the home form, which is one of the worst around, but that's a really important win. And I think more of their last 9 games are away, and if their away form's superb, I think it's the second best in the division. And if they can turn that around at home, they're in with a shout of sneaking in with the amount of quality they've got. They're definitely in with a shout.
They have signed
they've got a fantastic team.
They really are.
If you're paying Bruno Andrade, I mean, and this is what I've heard, it's between 7,000 and 8,000 a week in League Two.
Wouldn't be. I mean, they've got James Wilson as well, who was Premier League not long ago. He'll have been on decent money with Aberdeen.
They must have one hell of a stadium sponsorship deal to beat the FFP rules.
Who is it that sponsors the stadium?
Peninsula,
yeah.
Unbelievable that they bring in players of the calibre. I mean, like Ash Hunter, what a game he has. But yeah, he was flying in League One with Fleetwood last season.
I mean, they've got a top half on paper, at least. They've got a top half League One team there.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I'd feel if they don't do it this year, give them a pre-season and then just watch them.
They'll run away with the league.
They'll do some damage next season with a good pre-season behind them.
I'm not one to be downer on any team, but I don't know, something about buying success and the way that they sort of cycled out the players that got them into the league.
I don't like it, but
I don't like it.
But they are where they are for whatever reason, and they're a fantastic team at the end of the day.
That reminded me, talking about non-league here, ASC Fylde brought in someone. Who was it they brought in? A goalkeeper they brought in recently.
Well,
and I was looking at it thinking, how on earth have you got him? Who was it?
Fylde have got a lot of money themselves.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it was now.
Lillis.
That's it, Josh Lillis. And I was thinking, how on earth have you got him? I thought he was really good for Rochdale last season.
He's been good for Rochdale for a long.
It's also interesting because I'm sure Fylde's old goalkeeper went to Rochdale. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And didn't get on well at all with their chairman.
Yeah, I did read something similar actually. Yeah, because, it rings a bell.
When Danny Rowe signed for Oldham, there was some comment on it.
Yeah. There are some teams with, it's not that they don't have histories. All these teams have histories, but they don't have any league history. And
I mean, Salford
I suppose if you're going
to
the Amis, it is amateur. I mean, if you're going to invest in a club, I mean, you can't blame those guys for investing in a local area team, really.
It slightly upsets me that Gary Neville didn't invest in Bury.
I think when the trouble came about, he was saying that he was already heavily invested in Salford. There's nothing he can do because of the rules. I mean, Bury imploded fairly quickly. Let's be fair. I mean, from the moment that the payments to players stopped to when they disappeared, you're talking 6 months, less than that probably.
It wasn't long at all.
Yeah, that's true.
To get that sort of support, and like Phil Neville said, he said I couldn't help because me and my brother we've got investments with another team. So,
and the worrying thing is as well, it's not just them that could suffer it. We've had issues with Macclesfield, we've had issues with Southend. We've had a situation with Oldham as well, Chris, obviously. So
yeah, and Bassini not involved at all.
I don't understand this week. I just don't understand this week.
You can just see Blitz, can't you? Going, you're not allowed to let Bassini anywhere near this team. No, says Abdullah. No, not at all. But my friend Laurie Bossuni, completely different man, maybe lending me some money.
Why is Abdullah Italian suddenly?
I've just yes. Okay, let's not talk about my accent.
Yeah, let's stop that.
The point is though, like it does seem a bit strange.
It's I mean, because we were talking on the podcast last week about Oldham being on the brink of administration, and then it's come out that apparently the owner's buying the stadium. So we've gone from a situation where he needs to find, in reality, over £1 million. I mean, the debt to Blitz was 600 and something grand. But in reality, he needs to find one and a bit million, and then now he's suddenly found 8 million to pay off his existing debts and buy the stadium.
Right, okay.
That seems a little suspicious. I don't know.
Just a bit.
That's one hell of a sofa he's found some money behind.
He's done well on the Euro Millions.
Unbelievable. So that looks like, I mean, it's all done in principle. Nothing has changed hands, so we'll wait and see with bated breath with that one. But a 3-0 defeat at Crawley, despite a positive first half. I mean, it's just, I think to be fair, Crawley are going so well at the moment. They'll be, under John Yems, perhaps a team to watch next season.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with what they're building there.
If they can keep Ollie Palmer, I mean, Ollie Palmer has been injured, but Naderson has been unbelievable since Yems came in. I really like Gabriele Cioffi, but I don't think he used Naderson at all well. I think Yems has recognised what a player he's got there, and he's utilised him superbly.
And they've got
yeah, go for it, mate.
Glenn Morris at the back as well, who's 36. And
what a player! I have to say,
superb. He's been absolutely brilliant.
He deserves huge credit. He doesn't get enough as well. But is there a better keeper? I mean, maybe Scott Brown, but is there a better keeper at this level? Hardly any. I can't. I know all keepers in League Two. There's some really good stoppers. Like you say, Scott Brown, Dean Gherkin, people like that. But Glenn Morris, yeah. Glenn Morris, for what he does, week in, week out, I mean, he makes super saves. Like, literally, every time I've been down there, he has made ridiculous saves.
He made a couple of good ones yesterday, didn't
he? Yeah.
Some very good ones yesterday, yeah.
Used his face at one point, I think.
Yeah, he did.
Keep the ball out. But no, he's superb, and John Yems deserves a lot of credit. Oldham need to find a way of winning on the road, because they've been, atrocious. When was the last time you actually won away? Was it?
Oh, it's. I mean, it's completely the opposite of what I've seen the entirety that I've been an Oldham fan. We've always been terrible at home.
I believe it was Morecambe on Boxing Day was the last away win.
I don't think we've won away. Yeah, that makes sense because I don't think we've won away.
I think it was that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. We are terrible on the road.
Yeah, the characters, like Dino was questioning the character. I mean, you can concede a goal and that's it. You capitulate. That's just terrible.
Yeah, you're right. Every time that we concede away from home, even if it's like when we were at Crewe, we were in a leading position, but that goal goes in and the mentality changes.
Yeah, though to be fair, like against Leyton Orient, you didn't do that really, but I mean, it's just, you've just come off a thumping home win, and you go away and get thumped. Oh, it's just, it's hard to put your finger on it, but at Newport, the team that were thumped by Oldham last weekend got a very important 1-0 win on a terrible pitch at Rodney Parade, 1-0. They got through that game against Morecambe. Northampton lost to Mansfield, a silly red card from Hoskins, and Mansfield pick up a victory, which, I mean, to be honest, their season's over. It's more about what they're going to do for next season and trying to rebuild that team to get a promotion challenge. Northampton need to find a way. I mean, their recent results, I think they've gone loss, win, loss, win, loss. Yeah. I mean, they're just all over the place.
Like I said with Colchester, it's just that inconsistency. And I'm surprised Port Vale haven't yet taken advantage of that, really, to go above the two of them.
No, indeed. One team, though, that did impress yesterday and were expected to be fair, Plymouth Argyle 3-0 win at home to Macclesfield. George Cooper playing well. I mean, it's good when you're playing a sort of an attacking midfielder at left wing back. You're always going to have an outlet, aren't you? And I think he's adapted quite well because he's not really a left wing back, is he? He's in his career, he's always been either a left winger or a number 10, and yet he has. I think it's the system that Ryan Lowe plays that just is conducive to that kind of football.
It's good as well. I really like Callum McFadden. I think I remember watching him to Bury last season. He was at Burton for a little bit as well, playing as that kind of left back, left wing back. He's really good in that. But he's gone into centre half recently to cover for Gary Sawyer as that sort of left side centre back, and it just lets Cooper forwards. And when he links up with Danny Mayer like he did in this game, you've got an unstoppable force there.
Yeah, big win for them. They have the occasional blip, don't they, Plymouth? Which is a bit strange.
They do, but I definitely think they've got enough about them to do. And I'm really impressed with the front two of Hardy and Jeffcott as well.
I think Jeffcott is the story of the season because it's just, a local lad who's playing at Truro comes back in, gets his opportunity. And this is what Pete Wilde said on this podcast, is that everyone always loans youngsters from bigger clubs. Play your own. Yeah. Play your own youngsters. Give them a chance. You might be surprised.
And look at when teams give their young players a chance, they create assets. Look at what Oldham did last year with Edmondson. Sold for a good fee to a higher quality club, higher division club. You're shooting yourself in the foot not to play your own young players.
Yeah, exactly.
Crewe are the best example of it, aren't they? Their squad's young players.
Exactly, and they've got a huge financial asset there now as well, which will drive them up the leagues.
And as I think with Crewe as well, the argument is if you don't give them a chance, you'll never know. And
Exactly.
A lot of these Crewe players at other teams, I reckon, would not have made it because they just wouldn't have been. No one has any faith in youngsters.
I agree.
But what I think Crewe fans are very good at is they accept their young players will make mistakes and they'll have inconsistent seasons. But generally speaking, they don't get on their back, and they give them a lot of support. And if you're nurturing that environment, you're going to reap the rewards. And
the fantastic thing Crewe have done is as you say, they've given them time, and they've given them time over several years. They've not just given them a season at it and, all right, we'll get rid because you weren't good this season. They've given these young players a few seasons to grow as players.
And they're loving it. Look at them. Top of the table, 69 points from 37 games. Swindon do have that game in hand. But I think Richie Wellens side are a fantastic team. They were unlucky yesterday. They must have hit the post at least 3 times, I think. But they are second. Plymouth third. Exeter, Cheltenham, Colchester and Northampton making up the playoff places, with Port Vale, realistically, I think the one team just outside it. It could be Salford making a late charge, but at the moment, I'm sitting on the fence on that one. Mm-hmm. Stevenage bottom, another defeat for them. 22 points, the gap now 10 between them and Morecambe, though they do have that game in hand, but even so, not looking good. For Borough, Morecambe, of course, Macclesfield and Mansfield still down at the bottom, but all of them saying thank God for Stevenage, I think, because...
For now, for Macclesfield at least.
For now, yes indeed. Let's hope things don't get any worse off the pitch for them. And we'll have to wait and see. Thank you, Chris, for your contributions this morning.
Yeah, absolute pleasure.
And Ed, of course, been great to have you as always.
Oh, brilliant. Love being involved in this.
Yeah, it's great fun. I love talking about Low League. And in fact, we've been blessed with a really exciting end to a season this year. I can't wait. I really can't. I hope all the listeners and fans of all these clubs are enjoying themselves. It's a real pleasure to have. I think it's a real pleasure to. I know that the football is not always great. The pitches are poor, but the competitive edge and the fact that you're supporting your teams week in, week out, it's great. It's absolutely great. That's why we do this. We love Low League football. It's such a community thing. I think we've built a great community around D3D4. So, thank you to all of you who get involved. Thank you to all of you who support us through our Patron campaign. We'll be back next week, and I'm sure something massive will have changed as well. So, a lot to talk about. But until then, everyone, have a good week and goodbye.